My name is Emma. I'm 28 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the easy one in my family. The one who adjusted, apologized, and stayed quiet so things wouldn't explode. I work as an event coordinator for a nonprofit, which is ironic in a way. My entire job revolves around preventing disasters before they happen. I plan, I anticipate, I smooth out problems before anyone else even notices them. What I didn't realize was that I'd been doing the same thing in my personal life for years, especially when it came to my sister. I planned my wedding myself, not because I'm controlling, but because planning gives me peace. Structure makes me feel safe. Every detail of that day, the seating chart, the flowers, the lighting, the timing of the music, was intentional. It took me 2 full years to save $80,000. 2 years of budgeting, skipping vacations, turning down nights out, and choosing long-term happiness over short-term comfort. I didn't grow up with money. Nothing was handed to me. This wedding wasn't about showing off. It was about celebrating how far I'd come. Owen, my fiance, now my husband, is the best thing that ever happened to me. He works in IT security, which means he's naturally cautious, observant, and always prepared. Where I tend to give people second chances, Owen quietly watches patterns. He doesn't assume the worst, but he never ignores red flags either. He's gentle, supportive, and steady in a way that makes you feel anchored. Being with him taught me what real safety feels like. My older sister, Jenna, is 33. Growing up, she made it clear that my existence somehow robbed her of something she believed she deserved: attention, validation, love. If I succeeded, she felt diminished. If I was praised, she felt attacked. And every time she lashed out through insults, passive-aggressive comments, or outright cruelty, my parents brushed it aside. "She's sensitive. She's just insecure. Be patient with her, Emma." So I learned to make myself smaller. I learned that keeping the peace mattered more than my feelings. When I got engaged, I braced myself for tension. Instead, Jenna became overly involved. She insisted on helping with planning, constantly texting me suggestions, volunteering to handle things I never asked her to handle. At first, I thought maybe this was her way of reconnecting. Maybe she was trying. But there was something about it that felt wrong. She hovered. She watched me too closely. She needed to be involved in moments that weren't hers. I ignored my instincts because that's what I'd always done. The wedding ceremony itself was perfect. The sun was setting behind the trees, bathing everything in warm gold light. The guests sat quietly as music drifted through the air. When Owen and I exchanged vows, my hands were shaking, not from nerves, but from joy. In that moment, the years of stress, the family tension, the sacrifices, it all felt worth it. I remember thinking, nothing can ruin this day. The reception is where everything shifted. During cocktail hour, Jenna was everywhere. Every time I turned around, she was there, offering me champagne, smiling too widely, insisting I relax. Her voice sounded sweet, but it felt forced, rehearsed. I declined politely each time and stayed close to Owen. Something in her energy made my skin crawl, but I couldn't quite explain why. When dinner began, Owen and I sat at the head table. I stepped away briefly to thank guests, and Owen was pulled aside for photos. When I returned, my champagne glass wasn't exactly where I'd left it, just slightly off, enough to catch my attention. Then I saw it, a faint white residue on the rim of the glass. My heart started racing. I looked up and saw Jenna sitting back down at the family table, watching me. She called out loudly, "Everything okay, sis? You look stressed. Maybe sit down and have a drink." Heads turned. My mother leaned over and whispered sharply that I shouldn't make a scene, that it was my wedding. I didn't drink it. I picked up the glass, examined it carefully, and set it back down. Jenna's smile flickered for a split second, just long enough for me to notice, before she masked it again. Owen noticed too. Without a word, he wrapped the glass in a napkin and handed it to one of his groomsmen. That's when it hit me. The cameras. Owen had insisted we install small, discreet security cameras around the venue, near the gift table, the bar, and the bridal table. I thought it was overkill at the time. Now it felt like the smartest decision we'd made. I didn't confront Jenna yet. I smiled, I nodded, I let the evening continue. As the night went on, Jenna became more aggressive in subtle ways. She commented on how pale I looked, how tense I seemed, how I wasn't enjoying my own wedding. I overheard her telling relatives that I was paranoid, that I always overreacted. My parents nodded along, enabling her without question. Then came the speeches. Jenna wasn't scheduled to speak, but she stood up anyway, walked to the DJ, and took the microphone. She smiled at the crowd and spoke about me in a tone that sounded loving on the surface, but was laced with criticism underneath. Jokes about how controlling I was, how I couldn't relax, how marriage might finally teach me to let go. Some guests laughed nervously. My mother beamed, proud. I sat still, hands folded in my lap, Owen's grip firm around mine. Later, I excused myself to the restroom. Jenna followed me and cornered me in the hallway. Her sweetness vanished instantly. "You think you're so special. You don't deserve this." I asked her calmly what she'd put in my drink. She laughed, called me crazy, accused me of being jealous on my own wedding day, and walked away. I texted Owen one sentence: "Check the cameras." He found me minutes and showed me the footage. There she was, clear as day, approaching the table, pulling a small bottle from her clutch, crushing pills into my champagne glass, stirring with her finger, and walking away. Time-stamped, undeniable. My body shook, not from fear, but from fury. Later, I overheard Jenna on the phone near the garden, laughing, saying I hadn't drunk it, saying I could never prove anything. I recorded every word. We waited. During the final toast, I took the microphone. I thanked the guests, I spoke about love and family, then I told the truth. The screen lit up with the footage. Gasps filled the air. Jenna stood up, screaming denial as her actions played in front of 300 people. Then the audio played, her voice, laughing, admitting everything. The silence that followed was crushing. Owen held up the preserved glass and asked her what the lab would find. She collapsed. Venue security escorted her out as guests watched in shock. The glass tested positive for crushed sleeping pills the next day. I filed a police report. Charges followed. My family fractured. Some blamed me. I walked away without regret. The photos from that day are still beautiful because I refused to let someone else's bitterness define my happiness. That night, I learned a hard truth. Sometimes protecting your peace means exposing the truth, even when it hurts, especially when it's family.